Joining us now is Pauline Hanson, the One Nation leader, and Professor David Flint, the star columnist with The Spectator Australia and, of course, the national convener of Australians for Constitutional Monarchy. Great to see you both. Well, congratulations, Pauline. What excellent news. You must be popping the champagne there. One Nation has secured not one but two extra spots in the Senate in Western Australia and in New South Wales, bucking the national trend and increasing your numbers within Parliament. Big win, Pauline. Congratulations. How does it feel?
Oh, thanks, Rowan. It was so exciting to actually do it. I knew it was on a knife's edge with both those seats, but to actually hear that we won the seats, it was so exciting. And very pleasing to hear. So now we have 4 senators, the same as what the National Party have in the Senate. So after coming back to the party in 2016, working hard to actually secure these seats, be a voice for the Australian people, I'm really pleased with what we have achieved. So it wasn't only my work, it was the team's effort, you know, the people in the states, the volunteers, and most importantly, I want to say a big thank you to the voters out there that had enough confidence to actually vote for One Nation. So thank you very much.
That's great, Pauline. And one person who predicted or certainly pushed for this is, of course, Professor David Flint, who's with us. David, you wrote in The Spectator Australia, Spectator readers would have been introduced to Warwick Stacey, the new One Nation Senator for New South Wales, in The Spectator, in your column. You're always way ahead of everybody else. David, tell us about Warwick Stacey and why you were so keen to write about him all the way back in April.
Well, congratulations, Pauline. And it's a wonderful group of senators. You have Malcolm Roberts. I don't know the gentleman from Western Australia, but I'm sure he's superb. And you have Warwick Stacey, a remarkable man. Yeah. He knows so many languages. He is extraordinary. Australians don't normally go in for languages, but he went to Europe to do languages, and then he joined the British Army. He was a para. He was in the parachute regiment and the SAS, so has a brilliant military career. And then after that, he was almost a James Bond-like character. He was doing ransoms and advising people who were being the subject of terrorism. Quite extraordinary. And now he's decided to stand for One Nation, and there he is in the Senate.
Yeah.
And,
well, exactly, David. I think, Pauline, hostage negotiations was his specialty, and I think, Pauline, that might be a skill very handy in the new Senate. I think that skill will come in extremely handy.
I'll tell you what, Lydia Thorpe won't hold us to hostage. I'll tell you, in that Parliament, right. I'm going to put Warwick up against her.
Exactly. Now, let's talk a little bit about... Sorry, David, just briefly. I want to talk as well about...
May I just say this?
Yes. Go ahead, David.
Certainly. It's just that Sir Robert Menzies, if Sir Robert Menzies were alive today, I have no doubt he would look with favour on One Nation, because it stands for those principles which he stood for when he created the Liberal Party.
Well, I would agree with that, Pauline, and I would go further and say that this result does cement the idea that many people left or put their first preference over with One Nation rather than with the coalition during the election. Now, is that a fair assessment?
I think they have. A lot of people that I spoke to were very much with the Liberal Party and actually left it because they've lost their core values of what they stood for as a party. And with it being taken over by the moderates in the party, I see them leaning more and more to the left to appease those activists, and it's wrong. And that's why I'll keep pushing back all the time, especially get rid of this net zero, Paris Agreement, all this rubbish that's been imposed on the Australian people. So I'll stand true to my values. Rowan, I'll keep pushing this, and I'll hold even the coalition to account, and the Labor and the Greens, and let's come up with the true science and not all this BS that they're peddling out there and scaremongering that goes on. People have a right to know the truth.
Absolutely. And it's not only on net zero, Pauline. We learnt today that the Truth and Treaty push is back on. The proponents of The Voice are out there again. Pat Dodson saying, "Oh no, now Labor's win. It's all back on with Truth and Treaty telling." So One Nation will have their work cut out for them on that score as well, Pauline.
Yeah, look, that's true, and I said that it wasn't dead and buried. They hadn't walked away from it. Now that they've got the numbers, they can push it through the parliament, whatever they want to do with legislation. This will be so damaging to Australians. It will divide us as a nation. You can't have inequality. And these people, these activists that still keep pushing their agenda all the time, is not pulling us together as a nation. So Pat Dodson has been pushing for it, and of course it's the Indigenous International Panel, they're pushing for it as well. It's happening all around the world with pushing for Indigenous and not uniting people or countries together.
Well, David, that's one thing I wanted to chat to you about was King Charles. Pauline is right. King Charles, we saw the nonsense with Lydia Thorpe when King Charles was out here recently. Lydia Thorpe parading around Parliament with wearing her cloak and so on. But I made the point that King Charles was quite happy to sit in front of the Aboriginal flag during all of that. We now have, and I'm going to play you a little clip here of King Charles in the Canadian Parliament day before yesterday. Have a listen to what he's saying. He's basically doing an acknowledgement to country.
I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and the Shinabeg people. It is my great hope that in each of your communities and collectively as a country, a path is found toward truth and reconciliation in both word and deed.
Now, David, I made comments on the Andrew Bolt show, the Bolt Report, the other evening, saying that I was horrified by this, that I'm a constitutional monarch, you are the head of the Australians for constitutional monarchy. To me, and I'm perfectly happy to be told I'm completely wrong, but for me, that if the sovereign monarch is talking about the land that the Parliament is sitting on being unceded and therefore not sovereign, I have a major problem with that. Am I correct or not correct to have a problem with that?
I think you're correct to have a problem. It is ridiculous to say that the land was unceded. That perhaps is correct as a fact, but the fact is that Canada is a sovereign country and owns all of the land there, and if they wish to make arrangements about native title, that's a matter for them. But the King, of course, reads the King's speech, which is drafted by the Prime Minister. In this particular case, of course, it would have been sent to him to London. If he had taken umbrage at that, he need not have gone. He could have said, oh, I won't read that and I won't embarrass you. I just won't come to Canada and I'll send somebody else. But he obviously is comfortable with it. Many people are comfortable with this. I understand what you're saying, but this view is wrong, I think, that our sovereignty is divided. We had, for example, Mr. Dodson this morning talking about the Aboriginal people as a sovereign people.
Yes.
All Australian people, all citizens are sovereign, and we're not divided into classes and races, and that's the fact.
And also, Pauline, just very quickly before we go, I mean, your party talks about one nation. That is the name of your party. How can you have a monarch who's talking about sovereignty, or in the case, as David said, Pat Dodson talking about Indigenous Australians being a sovereign people in their own right? So it's two nations, according to those of the left.
Well, they actually did a vote in Quebec, actually, to distance themselves from the Crown. So basically they had no faith in Prince Charles, or King Charles, I should say. I've got no time for him either. I'm a constitutional monarchist, but I don't like the man and I don't like his politics at all. So he's just put a nail in his own coffin. That's why I think, these countries will want to break away. But it's not about breaking away, it's about what we stand for under the Westminster system, our values under the Constitution that we have here. We elect our own members of Parliament, we govern ourselves, they don't interfere. It's just having the head that it is and what the whole system stands for. That's what I support.
Fantastic. Well, Pauline, we all look forward to the new Senate with our James Bond character, as David Flint has described him. Warwick, Stacey there, the two new One Nation senators. We can't wait. Hostage negotiations, let them begin. Thank you both.